On karma and destiny. Is that what it says in the program?
Yeah.
Karma and destiny. So I have recently released a book, and there's a chapter in the book on karma. So I thought for this talk, we will discuss what's in the book. And probably most of you understand karma, and I wanted to relate it, maybe from an angle of vision you haven't considered. I think it would be really helpful for you. So, who's running the slideshow? Mr. Rishan. Okay. Life gives feedback. In other words, wherever we are today in life is obviously a result of what we've done. Yes or no? Yeah. But we don't always see it that way. Have you ever blamed somebody for your problems? Have you ever blamed the situation for your problems? But if you look at it objectively, you see that whatever position you're in is a result of choices and actions that you've done, or thoughts or attitudes. And you just backtrack the equation. And if you changed anything in that equation, the result would be different. Isn't it? Recently, I sprained my knee, and I tore some cartilage, and I bruised a bone. Right? So there was a series of events that led up to that. And in the chain of events, if you changed one event, it wouldn't have happened. And if you look at your life, you'll see there's so many things in your life, if one thing was changed, it wouldn't have happened. About 10 years ago, I fractured my hip. And there's a whole chain of events, about 7 things that had to happen to lead up to that. And if any one of those were changed, it wouldn't have happened. So, karma is a series of cause and effects. And if you look at your own life, you can see that if you don't like the effects, you could have changed something along the way. Or if you don't like the effects now, you can change something in the future. But what a lot of us do, we make this huge mistake and we blame someone or something which we cannot change for the problem. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It's your fault. But I can't do anything about you. I can only do something about me. So if it's your fault, at least if I think it's your fault, I'm pretty much trapped now. Because I can't change you. So that is a great mistake. And so when we say results don't lie, if you look at your life, who created your life? Hint, you. Who created your life? Right? But we blame. We create our life and then we blame somebody for creating our life. And that's because we don't like the results. Isn't it? So that's what we're going to discuss, and we're going to look at it more deeply. And hopefully this will empower you in many ways to achieve a better position or achieve what it is you're trying to achieve. And we're also going to look at what are the messages that come through suffering, or what are the messages that our mistakes are telling us. Because karma is not Krishna sitting up on a throne with his computer calculating who's going to get punished next. That's not what God does. If you were God, would you do that? Punish people? That doesn't sound like fun, does it? You punish the people you don't like, right? So, let's go to the first slide, see what we have here. Karma is the ultimate personal responsibility philosophy. In the world of self-development, which is teachings which are meant to help you improve yourself, they're all based on the principle of personal responsibility. You take responsibility to make things better. If you don't, they'll be worse. If you want good grades in school, what do? You have to take responsibility to study. You want to get promoted at work, you take responsibility to do things well. You want to get healthy. How do you do it? Do you think about, oh, it would be nice to lose weight? No, you can't think about it. You So, if you don't like what you see in the mirror, you take responsibility. Change your diet, exercise, whatever. What's going to happen? Yes? You don't like how much money is in the bank account? You take responsibility to do something. You don't like the way your marriage is going? You make some changes. You make some efforts. So, karma is a simple philosophy of personal responsibility that everything you do is going to produce some result. And if you don't like where your life is at, you have to change something because it was you who created it. Now, some of you say, well, what about my past karma? This is interesting. We're talking about personal responsibility. Okay, in this life I can understand. I didn't study in school. I failed all my tests. Now my job is sweeping the street. That's all I'm qualified to do. So I can take responsibility for that. But I wasn't born in a good situation. I didn't have advantages. That's not fair. Karma is not fair. But karma is not unfair. Karma is your karma. And your karma was created by who? Who created your karma? 3 guesses. You did. So sometimes we complain about karma. It's not fair, I wasn't born in an advantageous situation, whatever. But who created that? We did. So we're responsible, even though a situation seems like we're not responsible. Prabhupada said, my spiritual master said, when someone told him the price of produce is high, he said it's your fault because you don't grow your own food. And if you did, the demand for produce would go down because most of what you eat, you grow, and the price of produce would go down. Would you like to lower the price of petrol? Very easy. Walk, ride a skateboard, skate around, ride your bike, or drive an electric car. The price of petrol is going to go way down, right? So who's responsible for the price of petrol? You and me. Yes? One time, some hippies were talking to Prabhupada, complaining about the war in Vietnam. America was involved in the war for like 10, 12 years. And it was a very bad war. And he said, you voted for the leaders. And the leaders went to war, so it's your karma for voting for them. And then someone said, but I didn't vote for the leader. The leader who took them to war, I didn't vote for them. He said, but you chose to live in this country, in a democratic society, so it's your karma. So we don't realize how responsible we are for things. Isn't it? We don't like taking responsibility. What is the number one cause of ecological destruction? It's meat eating. Because it uses more water and it produces more what? Nitrogen? What is it? Carbon dioxide. The problems that the Earth faces are caused by our lifestyle choices. You know, every time you buy a new phone, what happens? Where does your old phone go? And all the materials required to build a new phone. It's resources being taken from the earth. You've probably heard that Americans are consuming 25 to 30% of the world's resources. Have you heard that? America is just a country of 300 million people, but they're consuming. There's 7 billion people on the planet, so let's do the math. That's what, Americans are 1/20th of the planet, is that right? 300 million is 1/20th of 7 billion? More or less. So 1/20th of the planet is using 1/5 of the using 1/4 of the resources. A little fraction of the people are using 1/4 of the world's resources. Now, developing countries like China and India want to live like America. So what's going to happen? We're plunging the resources. And this is causing ecological destruction. I forgot to say, meat eating, how do you cultivate cattle? you chop down forests and let them graze. So our need for consuming our appetite for consumption is very, very voracious, and it's destroying the earth. And with all these karmic reactions, we have to look at ourselves and say, I'm using petrol, maybe I'm eating meat, maybe I'm over-consuming more than I need. I'm actually contributing. So whatever we're complaining about in our life, we should try to understand how we're responsible, because we're responsible for things we don't even realize we're responsible for. If you're married and you're having a bad marriage, whose fault it is? It's always the other person's fault. Yes or yes? Never my fault. It's always their fault, right? That's the paradigm. So, if you believe in karma, what karma is teaching is that whatever is showing up in your life, you created it. It's not an accident. And you can easily see by just looking at your life and going back. And there's something, if there's something you don't like, then just switch them, just change it. Go back and, no, I made this decision, that decision. Let me change that decision, let me change that action. And then the effects change. It's so simple. And so few people get it. If you have any questions? If you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. Okay, let's go to the next one. We are all responsible for our own actions, karma. This is a natural law. When we say he had it coming to him, we are simply acknowledging the law of karma. Have you ever said that? Something bad happens to someone? You ever said that? He had it coming to him. How many of you ever said that? All right, let me ask the question again. How many of you have never said that? Okay. Only the one who plays God who would damage people. She never said it. I don't believe it. Sounds good, but I don't know. Okay, so we're acknowledging the law of karma sometimes just by realizing when something bad happens to somebody who is bad, we recognize, yeah, it's about time he deserves it, right? Isn't it? Or if you know someone who's super nice, like Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. Nice Girl, and something good happens to them, you always say, like, who better than they deserves that? They're the best person to deserve that because they're the nicest people. They're always helping, they're always serving. Right? So we can understand that we are getting what we put out. It's so obvious. But it's so interesting how, although it's so obvious, oftentimes we're in denial when we look at our life, and our life isn't going the way we want, and we try to make believe that I had nothing to do with it. It's not my fault. The problem is Donald Trump. If he wasn't president, then everything would be fine. The problem is blank, blank, blank. If you ever catch yourself saying the problem is blank, 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 you're deluding yourself. And you're just preventing yourself from actually solving the problem that you created. It's a denial of taking responsibility for a problem you created. Right? There's a saying, which is true, but very funny. In every bad relationship you ever had, you were in it. You probably didn't notice that, right? I never thought of that. You mean I had something? I was actually in that relationship. I had something to do with it. Yes. Every bad relationship you were ever in, you must have had something to do with it because you were in it. And isn't it funny how we don't acknowledge that? No, that's the other person. Oh, you had nothing to do with it? No, I'm perfect. I didn't have anything, man, no problem. Right? We have a marriage seminar, and I asked a really heavy question. And it's a difficult question to answer, and I'm going to ask you, and you don't have to answer it. But I just want to ask you to consider it. Would your spouse be happier married to somebody else? It's a heavy question, isn't it? about it if it's going to drive you crazy. But it's an interesting question to ask. Would they be happier? Would they be better off? Would they be more peaceful? Would they be XXX? And obviously in some cases the answer is yes. And so, if that's true, that means I could act differently and make it better. Yes? You agree? You better agree. Because if you don't, you're going to keep making the same mistakes over and over and blaming it on other people. Right? And you'll never solve the problem. Have you ever heard this story? This man wants to move to a new village, so he goes to the local sadhu and he says, "What are the people like in this village?" And the sadhu says, "Well, what are people like in your village?" "Oh, they're all cheaters, liars, this and that." And the sadhu says, "Yeah, people are like that here." And then another guy comes and says, "What are people like in the village?" And he says, "Oh, what are people like in your village?" I said, "Oh, they're nice, they're generous, they're friendly." "Well, yeah, in our village they're nice, generous, and friendly." You know, you see some people, wherever they go, they have bad relationships. You know anybody like that? Everywhere they go, bad. Same confrontation, same problem everywhere they go. And they don't realize it's them. Isn't that strange? Once, in America, a man came to our temple and he was homeless. And he had not taken a bath for, I would say, at least 3 weeks. So, he hadn't bathed and he was sleeping in his clothes. So he's wearing the same clothes and not bathing for 3 weeks. So you could imagine what that smells. Can you imagine what that smells like? Just try to imagine. You know, almost like it was almost competing with a skunk. It was bad, very bad. And he walked into our temple. This is a true story. It's funny, but it's true. He walked into our temple and he said, "This temple stinks. I'm getting out of here." So isn't our life like that? We mess it up, and we blame everyone else for messing it up. And everywhere we go, it's the same problem. And every time we blame someone else for the same problem that we keep creating, and we don't realize it. Isn't that amazing? Sometimes we're amazingly stupid. Even the intelligent people are sometimes amazingly stupid. Dull. We don't get it. But this is what karma is. Karma is whatever's showing up, we had something to do with creating that. Let's go to the next one. How you treat others determines how much happiness or suffering you will experience. Yes or yes? Do you ever treat others unkindly and expect them to be kind to you? I think husbands do that all the time. Do you agree, ladies? You know, it's like they want you to be A, B, C, D, and E, but there are none of those. You know, you have to be submissive. You have to listen to what I say. You have to do this. And they won't listen to one thing you say, and they expect you. It doesn't work. So, how we treat others is always what comes back to us, right? There's a saying, it's a very powerful saying, that whatever you want in life, help someone else get it, and you'll get it. So you want to be happy? Make someone else happy. I just read this story. There was a lady, she lost her husband, and about 3 weeks, I think about 3 months later, she lost her son. So she went into a stage of depression. She was very dysfunctional, as you can imagine. So one day she's coming home, it's very cold outside, and a cat follows her home. And she felt sorry for the cat, because maybe he'll freeze to death. So she brings the cat in, the cat's rubbing up against her feet, and purring and meowing, and then she feeds him, or her, and she feels really good. Like for the first time in months, she's been depressed, feeding the cat. So every day, she's feeding the cat, taking care of the cat, and she's thinking, if I feel so good serving a cat, how much better will I feel serving human beings? So then she went out to help poor people, clothe them, feed them, and so forth. And all her depression went away. And this story was being told to a woman who had everything in the world and was completely depressed. The story was being told by a woman who had everything taken away and was happy because she was serving. You like that story? Nice story. And it's true. It's so true. When you serve, when you give, whatever it is you give back. Karmic reaction immediately. You want to experience it? After you leave this lecture, go and smile at people. You think they're going to punch you in the nose because you're smiling at them? No, they're going to smile back. Well, you could experiment by punching them in the nose, but we know what will happen, so we don't have to experiment, and plus we get arrested. So it's probably not a good idea. But that's how karma works. Whatever you're giving to other people, you will get back. And so many of us, we try to put other people down and compete, thinking we're going to get. Or I'm going to pull you down and pick myself up. No, if I pull you down, I'm down with you. If I throw you in the gutter, I'm in the gutter with you. If I uplift you, I'm up there with you. That's karma. You can't avoid it. We try to avoid it. We try to squiggle our way around it. It doesn't work. It's not the way the world is set up. I was reading, I don't know if this is true in South Africa, but in America, they found that the people in corporations who get promoted are not the people that compete with coworkers, but the people who help coworkers. Because the people who help coworkers, that's another name for boss. And so because they're helping, they get a higher position, because that's what a boss is supposed to do. So that's the way karma works. You will help others, you'll get elevated. True or true? Are you guys awake? True or true? Okay, I need to hear you in the back. True or true? That's not very loud. On the scale of 1 to 10, that was about 2.6. Okay, I need a good response from you. True or true? True. Thank you. Okay, next one. Lord Buddha said that you are not punished for your anger, but by your anger. Anyone who inflicts pain upon others, including upon one's own self, suffers himself from that pain. We create our own heaven or hell, then we either swim in the bliss or burn. Should I read that again? That was 3 thoughts in one. This is from my book, and unfortunately I sold out. So, next time. And it's not on Amazon. It's almost on Amazon. But I have cards. You can connect with me. And if you're interested in the work I'm doing, you will find out from Facebook when my book is available on Kindle. Okay, Lord Buddha said, I'm going to take each point one by one because there are 3 very powerful thoughts. Lord Buddha said, you are not punished for your anger, but by your anger. Anytime we mistreat a person, who suffers the most? We do. So Lord Buddha is saying, you think your anger is going to punish somebody, but the person who is punished the most is the one who inflicts the anger. You agree? Because now you're carrying anger with you. We teach forgiveness. Who suffers the most? The person holding on to resentment is suffering. Who enjoys? The person who's compassionate, kind, loving. What do they enjoy? They enjoy compassion. They enjoy kindness. They enjoy sympathy. The person who's angry and envious does not enjoy. They suffer from anger, they suffer from envy, they suffer from jealousy. You all know, you all have experienced that envy and jealousy is one of the most toxic and painful emotions to experience. Yes or no? So when I'm envious of you, I suffer from that very envy. I turn green in envy. I inflict punishment upon myself. We may blame others for suffering. We may blame nature for suffering. We may blame our boss, our spouse, the president. But it is my experience as a teacher and a counselor that the person who causes us the most suffering is the man or woman in the mirror. We are our worst enemies. We cause ourselves more pain and suffering than anybody else. So when we hold on to anger, we punish ourselves. You agree? And you can experiment. Just let your resentment go, let your anger go, be kind, be generous, see how you feel. Second point, anyone who inflicts pain upon others, including upon one's own self, suffers himself from the pain. This is actually from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from a story. Perhaps you know the story. There was a boy, his name is Dhruva, and he was offended by his father. And he wanted to take revenge on his father. And this is what his mother said to him. He said, if you inflict pain upon your father, you're going to suffer. And there's a saying in India, if you kill a skunk, your hand is going to stink. So when you inflict pain upon another, you're going to suffer. You kill a skunk, your hand's going to smell. Yes? True or true? True. Are you awake? Let's try that again. True or true? True. Come on. You do better than that. We want a 10, okay? Can we do it? We want the 10 to go. Okay? True or true? True. Very good. Okay, the last one. We create our own heaven or hell, then we either swim in the bliss or burn. We create our own heaven or hell. In Vedic philosophy, the concept of heaven or hell, it first begins here in our own consciousness. People say, is there heaven or hell? We go, yeah, it's right here. We create it by what? By our thoughts. By what we're thinking, by our attitudes, by our consciousness. So, if I'm hateful, if I'm resentful, if I'm envious, if I'm jealous, I create my own hell, and then I'm burning in the own hell that I created. Isn't it? If I'm kind, compassionate, loving, and so forth, I create my own heaven, and then I get to swim in the bliss. So, the biggest mistake is to blame others for how you feel. You make me so mad. No, I cannot make you mad. Nobody can make you mad. Only you can make yourself mad. We think you make me mad. No. I'm choosing to be mad. I'm reacting. We have to acknowledge that. Nobody can force you to do anything. Sometimes someone says, you upset me. And I say, since when am I responsible for your feelings? When was I appointed as the person responsible for how you feel? You make me feel this, you make me feel that. No, you're responsible for how you feel. Not me. Even if I get angry at you and you get upset, well, I'm not responsible for your feelings. That was your reaction. I may be saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, but you're responsible for how you react, not me. But you want to blame me. You made me mad. You made me angry. You made me jealous. You made me this. No, I'm not responsible. I'm sorry. I'm not responsible for how you feel. You are responsible for how you feel. And if you blame me for being responsible for how you feel, it means you're not controlling your emotions. Right? That makes sense? We have questions. Whoa. Let's see what's next. I just want to get through the quotes. Yeah, your karma is your map. We all have karma. So you're saying, what about my past karma? There's so much control that I don't have control of. As I said, you created your past karma. So even if your past karma is controlling you now, you set it in motion. But your karma is a map. So you can't go off the map. But within the map, there are choices. Nothing is exactly destined. There are choices within it. Maybe your destiny is to be born and live in South Africa, but you have so many choices. You have so many choices while you're here. This is your map. So don't think everything's destined. There's nothing you can do. We have many more choices than we may believe. There's always options. And if we think karma is unmovable and unchangeable, that's not true. It's just general. And then from that, you deal with it. And the one thing that we all know that we have choice of is when our karma comes and hits us, we can choose our reaction to how we're going to respond to what's happening. Sometimes what happens, we can't do anything about it. It just happens, right? So now what do? What's left when you can't control anything? The only thing that's left is how you respond to the situation. Have you ever been in a situation that you couldn't stand, but you couldn't control it? Of course you have. And what do you do in that situation? Some people punch walls, right? Some people shoot guns, isn't it? Some people fly airplanes into buildings, isn't it? That's their response. But you have a choice. No matter what your karma is, you can choose how you respond to every situation. Don't ever say, I can't control myself. It's not true. If you ever say, I can't control myself, I want to rephrase that for you. Instead of the word can't, say, I choose not to. I can't control my anger. No? Delete can't control, replace it with I choose not to. I choose not to control my anger. That's actually what's happening. That's actually the reality. I can't is not the reality. I choose not to. You make me so mad. Every time you say that, I can't stand it. No? You choose not to stand it. You choose to allow me to make you mad. That's the reality. And when you live in that reality, you will see you'll be able to control yourself. You agree? If you don't agree, raise your hand, and we'll throw you out of the tent. No, if you don't agree, I'll address it. If you don't agree, that's your karma. You get thrown out, right? Okay. What's next? Karma plays a significant role in the material outcomes of our lives. If it didn't, everyone trying to be fabulously rich and famous would achieve their goals simply by doing things that rich and famous people did to become successful. So why I put this here is, you all know, okay, let's say this is a workshop on how to make 100 million rands this year, all right? And I'm the motivational guru, and I'm going to give you the program how to do it. You got to be determined, you got to be inspired, you got to be fired up, you got to be goal-oriented, and I'm jumping around the stage, and everybody's going, yes, yes, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, and everybody's fired up. Does everybody make 10 million, 100 million? No. Why? Because it doesn't matter how hard you try. If it's not your karma to be rich, guess what happens? You're not going to be rich. I don't care how many books, get rich books you read. You will be richer than you would be if you didn't go to the seminar. I'll acknowledge that. But it might be 100 rands richer, or 1,000 or 10,000, but not 100 million. Because it's not your karma. It's just not. So the point of this is that, well, a lot of times we see in our lives we're doing all the right things. We're making the efforts. We're nice to people. We're in the right places. We got the right education. We do everything right, and it just doesn't come out the way it did for my neighbor. And so what this is saying is, if 10 people do the exact same thing and get 10 different results, there must be a karmic result, right? So you have to acknowledge that, otherwise you go crazy, because you won't accept it. Why did they succeed and I didn't, and I'm actually smarter than them, isn't it? You ever see these people, they're kind of not that smart and that talented, and they're driving like a Bentley, and they live in, 5,000 square meter castle, and you're scratching your head, and like, I did everything they did, and I'm smarter than them, and I can't even pay the rent on my one-bedroom flat. What's going on? There's karmic influences, and when you understand this, you can be more accepting of situations that would normally frustrate you. So yes, try, do your best, do what you can, but be accepting, because some things are just going to be a certain way. You may not be rich and famous. That's okay if that's not your karma. That's okay. Okay, I think I should read some questions. Is that okay? I have your permission? questions are here. Can we change our past karmas by doing good from today? The problem is, you can. Generally, the way it works is you can create good karma, but you'll still have to suffer for your bad karma. So that's not a real solution. If you take the spiritual life, like chanting, doing puja, studying, chanting mantra, that will relieve your bad karma. But there's a problem. If you do it to relieve your bad karma, it'll create worse karma. It's a catch-22. So I chant every day the Maha Mantra. I chant it for purification. If I chanted it every day to relieve myself of past karma, that was considered nam aparad, or an offense to chanting. And that's considered worse than the sin that I'm trying to overcome. So, the attitude of someone practicing spiritual life is, whatever my past karma is, let it happen. I don't mind. I just want to serve Krishna. Whatever he does is okay. Now, sometimes we hear that when you take the spiritual life, it relieves all your karma, your past karma. But sometimes Krishna wants you to suffer your past karma because there's something you're attached to, and that suffering will detach you. So let's say you have some karma around pride, and every time you become proud, you always get smashed. That's some karmic position you have. And then you become Krishna conscious, you become a devotee, you hear that now all my karma should go away, but then the same thing happens. Krishna decided that every time you become proud, I'm going to create some trouble for you. So you realize that pride is your enemy. So he's going to use your past karma, and then you're going to suffer. So I have a friend, he said karma is God's language. When you suffer, you want to get a message. What's the message? What is it saying? What happens when you get a stomachache? What do you think? What's the first thing you think when you get a stomachache? Why did I get it? So you go for your dinner menu. Okay, pizza, ice cream cake, dal, oranges, strawberries, crackers, chocolate cake, and you go down the list, And then a chemist comes in and said, if I put that in the jar, it would explode. Actually, it would substitute for an atomic bomb. And your stomach's exploding. So, there's isn't it? So, if you ever suffer, then you should do the math. Okay, what did I do? What's the message? The message is, don't mix pizza, ice cream, burgers, fries. No, keep it simple, Have a little rice, sabji dal, That's good. You'll be okay. That's the message, isn't it? Have you ever had this experience that every time you eat a certain combination, you always get a stomachache, but you like that combination? So you eat it, and always you get a stomachache, and every time you eat it, you think, but this time it's going to be different. Yes or no? Yeah. So there's a message there. The message is, don't eat this combination because your stomach ache. And you can apply that to your life. Every time I do this, it agitates somebody. Or every time I do this, I get this problem. It's a message. What is God telling you? He's telling you, don't do that, or don't think that way, or don't have that attitude, because it's going to create a problem. So, the next time you suffer, ask yourself the question, what is God telling me right now? What am I supposed to learn? Karma is God's language. So, if you're meant to suffer, allow that suffering to purify you. Don't be afraid of suffering. It's actually purifying. It's meant to give lessons. Embedded in suffering are deep messages. There's a poet. He's a Sufi poet. His name is Rumi. Have you heard of Rumi? Raise your hand. Rumi is an amazing poet. It's like Sufis are the Bhaktas, the devotional sect of Islam. And he said, the wound is where the light comes through. The suffering is where you get the epiphanies. Your greatest realizations may come from pain. So if there's karmic pain, you look for the message. I need to be strong. I've done something wrong. I have an attachment in a certain area, and every time I explore that attachment, I get knocked on the head. That's a message from God. Stay away. That's dangerous turf. When people do bad, it is very difficult to tell them that they have done wrong. We stay away from them for fear of their reaction. We'll walk away from wrong. Yeah, well, it's good. Unless it's your children or something. But if you don't have to have any interaction with them, then if people are doing something wrong, sometimes it's not a good idea to correct them because it will create a worse reaction. And a lot of times we get caught up with negative things in our life and we think about them and it really disturbs us. So some good advice is, if it's negative and you can distance yourself from it, keep away from it. Even if you don't like it, you like to change it, but if you can't, just stay away. Because it will create a big mess. How does astrology affect our karma? Astrology is just an explanation of your karma. So when you go to an astrologer, they're reading your karma. And a lot of what they're reading is not exact details of what's going to happen, but of tendencies of nature. You have this nature, like you have a fiery nature, and things really bother you, so you need to do pranayama. You need to balance it. So, what a good astrologer will not say, you have a fiery nature, so, you're useless, hopeless, nothing can be done. They're saying, no, you have this nature, so knowing that you have this nature, there's things you can do to balance it, counterbalance it. If we think astrology is all about destiny, then astrology will disempower us. And that's the danger. Astrologers say, oh, you're going to have a bad marriage, so you've already resigned to have a bad marriage, so why try to make it good because the astrologer told you it's going to be bad? Right? No, what it means is maybe the compatibility is not high, so it means you're going to have to work on it. It doesn't mean you're destined to have a bad marriage. It's just not going to always be smooth and easy, and it's going to require work. But if you think, oh, it's a bad marriage, why try? That's a misunderstanding of astrology. So karmically, some people have really good karma for family. Like they'll just like, my husband, he's the best guy ever. My wife, she's the best woman ever. Another guy says, my wife, oh my God, what sin did I do in my past to have this wife? So it's funny, but there's truth to it. But if you understand that, it's not, my karma is not to have a wife that says, yes, Prabhu, whatever you say, I'll do it, just tell me. My karma is a little bit the opposite. And it's just what it is. I don't have a wife that's like that. Most men in these days and ages don't have wives like that. I don't know if they make wives like that anymore. Have they manufactured them in the last 50 years? I think they went out of style, right? So it's just a reality that and so you may have really good family karma, you may have really good money karma, you may have really good success karma, or you may not. But it doesn't mean that you can't make it better. And that's the danger of astrology. If you believe that it's fixed, it's destined, you don't want to try. I asked an astrologer, could I make money as a musician? And he said, it would be difficult and you would have to do it. You would have to do certain things to do it. And in other words, it wasn't natural. He said, it's possible. So you understand your karma. And he said, but if you could make money in another profession, it would be easier. So they said, okay. So we use it that way. That's a better way to use it. Is it possible to change our karma through astrology? A little bit, the influence of malefic planets. But I'm a firm believer of dealing with malefic planets through changing your own consciousness. I mean, you can put up a mandala, wear a diamond, wear a stone, but My spiritual master, Prabhupada, said, the attitude, spiritual attitude is, this is my karma, let it happen, and I just want to serve Krishna. That's the attitude. Now, I want to tell you something amazing. In Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also called Bhagavad Purana, which is considered like the cream of the Vedas, it says something amazing about karma. I mean, this is very difficult to follow. But if you can follow this, it could drastically change your life. It says, a devotee, a person practicing spiritual life, when their karma comes to them, when they suffer, what do most people think when bad karma comes? What is our first thought? I don't deserve this. Why me? I'm a good person. Isn't it? You know, somebody breaks into your car and you're like, I don't deserve it. Why didn't they break into the guy's car across the street? Isn't it? Why me? You know, I'm like perfect. I didn't do anything wrong ever to anybody. But the Bhagavatam says, when your karma comes falling on your head, if you're a devotee, if you're a spiritualist, you think, I deserve worse. Is that amazing? I deserve worse, and God has reduced it. How many people, when they meet their karma, you know, you get married, you go on the honeymoon, everything's great, 3 years later, oh my God, I didn't realize who I married, you know. It's become a nightmare. Who thinks at that point, I deserve worse? Nobody. And that is what the Bhagavatam says, that a devotee thinks, due to my past sins, whatever is happening, I deserve worse. God is minimizing it. Is that incredible? Imagine you lived your life like that, thinking, I deserve worse. How easy it would be to accept the difficulties in your life. Right? Okay. Why are some people so heartless? You want me to answer that question? There is something which is called samskara. How many of you have heard the word samskara? So the best equivalent word is habit. Samskara actually means an impression. You do something and it creates impressions on your heart, it creates a consciousness and attitude. So due to past actions, some people have performed many heartless, sinful activities, and so when they're born, they just don't care about anybody except themselves. You know, we have examples of this in politics, don't we? Them and their family, that's what they care about. And they say narcissistic people cannot feel other people's pain. They can't feel other people's suffering. They only can feel themselves. So that's a karmic samskaric thing that people, due to their past actions, inherit. And they actually are incapable of feeling other person's pain. But if they become devotees of Krishna, their heart will soften. Because the most outstanding quality of a devotee is that they feel the pain of others. And they can't stand to see others suffering, and therefore they dedicate their lives to help people. That's why Prabhupada dedicated his life. He risked his life because he could not stand to see other people suffer. So as you cultivate spiritual life, that quality develops. As you cultivate material life, it's all about what I want. Who cares about you? As long as, you know, they have this thing in America. You have Thanksgiving here, a holiday called Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a holiday in America which celebrates when the first settlers have their first harvest, and they celebrated the harvest. So every year they have this Thanksgiving, and of course the business people always capitalize on everything. So they made it like a 4-day holiday, and they made the day after Thanksgiving the #1 shopping holiday of the year, and all the stores go on sale, and the stores advertise the sales, like things go down like 30-40%. So that one thing you always wanted that you couldn't afford, it's called Black Friday. On that day you can get it. And people actually line up outside the stores at night to be first in there. And they have videos of people fist fighting for items in the store. Same thing here? Yeah. So there are people like that. that's the way they are. But a very good lesson for us is to not allow people who are like that to make us like that. Because every person who has a bad quality is throwing out a bait. If someone's angry, they're throwing you a bait. They're not saying this, but they're throwing the bait. Okay, you're going to get angry, you know. Someone who insults you is throwing a bait. Are you going to insult them? Someone who criticizes you is throwing you a bait. Are you going to criticize me? So, everyone's throwing bait, and the biggest mistake we can make is when people throw bait that's just dirt and trash, give it back to them, the same frequency. If you are coming to spiritual life, when they hit you with their trash, you give them a hug and a kiss. That's what spiritual life is. They slap you in the face, and you give them a hug. That's what it means. And so the temptation is when they slap you in the face, give them 2 slaps. Isn't it? That's the human temptation. But if you're spiritual, what you're supposed to do is when they slap you in the face, give them a hug. And that's a test of your spirituality. And we need more people in the world that way. In the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira was talking to Draupadi, and Draupadi was very angry. She said, Yudhishthira, you're Dharmaraj, you know what is Dharma. You were cheated in the gambling match. You don't have to go into exile. It's unfair. It was cheating. What kind of dharma is that? She was really angry. And he said, anger is destructive. We cannot act on anger. We will take our exile in the forest and we will peacefully return. And then he said something profound. He said, if we retaliate hatred with hatred, anger with anger, resentment with resentment, we will destroy one another. The world will be finished. He said, therefore, forgiveness is what saves the world. So, if you're practicing spiritual life, no matter what comes to you, you've got to come back with forgiveness, kindness. That's going to save the world. Otherwise, if we come back with the same anger, we just destroy one another. Isn't it? Okay, we started late. What? Should I stop now? What should I do? Maharaj is ready? Yeah, okay. So, I ran out of books, but if you want to stay in touch with me, we have cards. And so this is Axel. Can you stand up? Axel's here. You just raise your hand, he'll come and arrange to give you a card, and you can stay in touch. Thank you all for listening. You're a great audience. And if you want to speak to me,